All right, thank you, Eric. Yeah, we're moving right along here pretty quick. So, my name is Amy Binkley, and I'm part of the planning division here at MoDOT. And I was asked to give a kind of just a refresher presentation about the Stip and the development of the Stip. So some of this might be, things that you already know, but there may be hopefully something new that you learned today. So, next slide. So what is the Stip? So the Stip is the Statewide Transportation Improvement Program, and it is MoDOT's rolling 5-year look at the right-of-way and construction program for highway and bridge projects. It also incorporates the TIPs, so the Transportation Improvement Programs, which is a federal requirement showing what transportation work is planned in our MPO areas, and there are 9 of those in Missouri. So why do we have a Stip and update it annually? We have a Stip because it is a federal and state requirement, and we choose to update it annually because this is our commitment to the public, informing them about projects. Now, I know Ed talked about earlier that we did not update the Stip in 2021 to 2025, but typically in a normal year, we do update this annually because we just feel this is our commitment to the public to let them know what we're working on. So how does it work? Missouri does have numerous assets to maintain, and we really have limited resources. So our districts and planning partners help make decisions on how to address those needs. Then we must evaluate these matching strategies to our needs to work within the budget that we are given. Ultimately, we really have to balance all the needs of the system with our funding to achieve those goals. So this balancing act that we do is basically our asset management plan. So that really is the starting point for the Stip, our asset management plan is. And where we need help from you, our planning partners, working with the districts to identify those needs and set forth the construction program for the next 5 years. So the process to create the Stip takes lots of resources and lots of time to create. So what is that Stip process? Next slide, please. So careful planning is necessary, obviously, when we update a Stip. So pulling together a draft and then obviously the final Stip is really no small task. It takes lots of people and lots of time to create. During the summer and fall months, districts work with our planning partners, so you, to evaluate system needs and to prioritize those needs so projects can be programmed in the Stip. So you, our planning partners, help with that process. Then, typically during the fall and winter months, our district staff develop and update estimates for projects. What will we be working on in the next 5 years? We want to make sure and include, things like scoping projects. What are things that are kind of on the horizon that we want to look at? So based on the financial forecast that's developed by our MoDOT's Financial Services Division each year, transportation planning then calculates Stip targets. And typically those are provided to the districts after the January commission meeting. Now, as Ed pointed out earlier in his presentation, we did present that in January, and then we did another one in February. So this year is a little different, but typically that's what happens. It's those targets go out after the January commission meeting. And the targets specify the amount of funds that each district receives to deliver their program. The districts are allocated these funds according to the commission-approved funding distribution formulas for things like asset management, safety, major bridge, and system improvement funds. So asset management funds are used for projects like pavement resurfacing, typical bridge improvements, maybe some ADA projects, signing projects, lighting projects, those kinds of things. Our safety funds are used for safety-oriented projects, which help to implement the facets of our strategic highway safety plan, or Show Me Zero. And I believe someone will be presenting, Nicole and John will be presenting later about that. So you'll hear about that later this afternoon. So major bridge funds are set aside to help districts fund just that, major bridge projects, major bridge improvements. And then we have what's left, system improvement funds. They are used to basically supplement our asset management plan. But they can also be used to deliver other things. In limited cases, we could have a capital improvement project as long as the district can meet their asset management goals. That's what those system improvement dollars are used for. So targets are developed and distributed to the districts, as I said, in January, and all programming is due to our division in early March in time to develop the draft STIP. And then in May, at the May Commission meeting, the draft STIP is presented to the Commission, and it's followed by a 30-day public comment period. Then at the July Commission meeting, the final STIP is presented and approved to the Commission, approved by the Commission. The STIP is also approved by MPOs for inclusion in their TIPs and approved by Federal Highway and FTA for inclusion in the STIP and the TIP. And once all of these approvals happen, we can now say that the STIP is fully approved. We must also meet fiscal constraint requirements by Federal Highway by year and on a statewide basis. So the fiscal constraint requirement really ensures that we deliver all the projects that we say we're going to deliver with the limited resources that we have. And within this process, there also is careful coordination with our TIPs. As I said, TIPs and STIPs need to match. And we need to understand that TIP calendars typically are different than our STIP calendar. So there really is careful coordination necessary to ensure that changes happen in both the TIP and the STIP. So after the STIP is approved in July, once the STIP is presented and approved in July, we start the amendment process. Next slide, please. So the amendment process is used to process and approve changes and additions to the STIP. So as Ed mentioned earlier in his presentation, we did not do an annual update last year to the STIP because of COVID hitting, and we saw some declines in revenues and our travel. We saw declines in travel. So we made the decision to not do an annual update to our STIP last year. But we have continued to process any changes through our amendment process. So as of the end of January, we've processed well over 500 amending actions, which is it's more than 2 times the amount that we normally process. And that really is attributable to the fact that we did not do an annual update last year. Now, just a little bit of information about what happens through an amendment process, changes that happen to projects. So if we have a minor change to a project, so something like maybe just a small scope change or possibly even adding a scoping project, those are processed monthly, and we do those through an administrative amendment or an administrative modification. We have major changes. So we consider a major change maybe a change to a budget that's greater than $1 million and 25%. Those are processed every other month, and those are considered what we say full-blown amendments. So after the annual STIP update is approved in July, that amendments process starts. And the process for approving amending actions takes time. And I just want to kind of reiterate the timing of all of this. We have to enter all the information into our system, our computer system that generates these. Then they have to be reviewed and approved. And all of that takes approximately 6 weeks to get the amending actions processed and approved. But it is important to think about when a project is going to be or scheduled to be let and awarded. That's very important in the whole process because, for example, a March amending action to a project has to be for projects in the May letting or later. Otherwise, there really just is not enough time to process and approve the amending action. So the entire process from entering all the information into the system, getting the approvals, and then getting the project awarded or let and awarded takes approximately 4 months to do. Changes and additions of projects are submitted to the district planner to be entered into SIMS, which is our database that we produce the STIP. And the district planner has to work with our central office planning to make sure that the amending action is entered correctly and is processed appropriately. And amendments require commission approval and MoDOT or federal highway approval. So it's kind of a higher level because those are, major changes that are happening to a project. Administrative amendments and administrative modifications have a little bit different level of approval. Administrative amendments require the chief engineer and MoDOT approval, and then administrative modifications just require the chief engineer approval. So, some minor changes that happen to projects. So once all of those approvals are received, and the change is made official and posted to the Stip website, where all current approved projects are posted. Again, I just want to reiterate, all of this takes time, so really careful coordination is necessary when doing any kind of an amending action to add or update a project in the Stip. We always say it's really important to maybe do careful planning on the front end with the Stip update. Right now, this time frame that we're in right now, doing those updates during the Stip update so we can minimize the number of amendments that we do throughout the year. I want to reiterate that both the TIP and the Stip schedules must be considered in relation to the timing of delivering a project. So in order to pull together all this information for the draft and the final Stip and for Stip amendments, we use a software system called SIMS, or our Stip Information Management System. Next slide, please. The Stip is created, as I said, by our SIMS system. So the Stip Information Management System is an application that's housed inside our larger TMS applications. And it houses all of our project information for construction and scoping projects. It was developed many years ago, I think 2005. So we're looking at, a little over 15 years ago. And it was written in a really old technology, old platform. And as we know, technology changes very quickly. So we are in the process of rewriting the application to be housed still in TMS, but it's going to be much more modernized and redesigned and recoded. Sorry, I muted myself. We call the system .NET. It will also utilize common TMS components used throughout the existing TMS application, and we hope it creates more of a cohesive kind of look and feel with other TMS applications. Now, we started this rewrite of this SIM system several years ago, developing first kind of the scope of the project. Then we've worked on kind of design of the project. How is it going to look and feel? And then finally, we're working on development and developing this new system. So the new system will have additional functionality that we don't currently have, such as being able to land projects on a map using kind of point and click technology instead of manually entering. Currently we have to manually enter specific beginning and ending logs, and you kind of have to know where the project is in order to know what exact logs you have to enter. So it's very manual process currently. We also hope that it will enhance our current processes and really streamline and create efficiencies in the development and actual reporting of the Stip itself. So we started this several years ago, and we like I said, it's taken several years to get to this point where we're actually developing the system. But we do expect to be completed with the system by the end of calendar year 21. And it will be ready, we hope, for the 23 to 27 Stip update if all goes according to plan. So as you can see, a new system of this magnitude, really it takes several years and lots of manpower to create. But we are hopeful that it's going to be a much more user-friendly and modernized application in the end, and just really help not only us in central office that actually prepare the Stip document, but also our districts to be able to enter information into the new system. So much more user-friendly. We hope its ability to be used functions much easier. So that's all I have. I hope you've learned a little bit about the Stip, maybe that you didn't already know. Maybe it was just a refresher for you, which is fine too. But I will take any questions.
Questions for Amy?